These days, cruise ships seem to be getting bigger and bigger, but could a smaller cruise ship be a better option for you? Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, we all know there is no such thing as a bad cruise ship, but you might be wondering which is better for you. Is it a big cruise ship or a smaller cruise ship? Now, over the years, we have cruised on many different ships of many different sizes, everything from the Oasis of the Seas, which at over 220,000 tons is one of the absolute largest cruise ships in the world, to a more mid-sized cruise ship of about 90,000 tons. Now, I definitely think that each of these have their pros and their cons, so in this video, I'm going to go over the good and the bad so that you can hopefully make a decision for yourself as to what is best for you. And I'm also going to share with you my honest opinion as to which one I think is best. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention two things. Firstly, I would really like to hear from you, so please let me know which type of cruise you prefer. Share your experiences in the comments below. And secondly, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Okay, let's get started. Now, for reference, overall, the cruise ships that I'm going to be talking about today, when I refer to larger cruise ships or big cruise ships, are everything from the mega cruise ships. So for instance, the Wonder of the Seas, the Oasis of the Seas, those mega cruise ships, as well as the very large cruise ships. And that would include the Discovery, Princess, that would include the Norwegian Joy, that would include the Celebrity Beyond. So basically all of those cruise ships that are over 130 or 140,000 tons plus. And when I'm talking about smaller cruise ships for this video, I am talking about mid-sized cruise ships by some of the mainstream cruise lines and not necessarily the smaller cruise ships by the luxury cruise lines. Okay, so let's start off with the cons of the big cruise ships. Now, one of the biggest cons, I think, of large cruise ships is the fact that you are going to have some amount of crowds. Of course, big cruise ships equals more passengers on board, more crew on board, generally a little bit less room in terms of the public space. Now, this may not bother you at all. However, some of the things that you might find on some of those largest cruise ships is the fact that you have to reserve shows in advance. Now, for some people, if you want to be sort of more go with the flow on your vacation, you may not like this aspect of those larger cruise ships as much. As well, you have to be a little bit more regimented sometimes when it comes to the dining, because this also does usually have to sort of be reserved in advance. Now, something that I think a lot of people would find probably one of the biggest negatives that maybe is a little bit more noticeable is the fact that it can be hard to find a deck chair. And if you don't like to deal with chair hogs, then you may want to go with a smaller or a mid-size cruise ship. Now, in contrast, the pro of a mid-size or a smaller cruise ship is the fact that because there are a little bit less people on board, so rather than having maybe 3,500 plus people on board, instead you might have around 2,000 or 2,200 people on board, you actually will have more likelihood of seeing the same people several times over the cruise. And that gives you an opportunity to even make some new friends. And even when it comes to crew, you're going to be more likely to be recognized by the crew and have a little bit more familiarity, which does sometimes, well, it does have a nice environment on the cruise ship. And as well, when it comes to reserving shows on those smaller cruise ships, you don't need to reserve shows. You're able to just go right in to the theater or into the lounges without having to reserve those things in advance. Now, every cruise ship is different, but generally those mid-size or smaller cruise ships are going to feel a little bit more spacious. You're going to feel like you have a little bit more space and a little bit less crowds gathering all in one area. Now, I do really want this video to be fair and to be well-rounded, so let's go on to a big pro of the big cruise ships, and this is the entertainment and the activities. So when it comes to the entertainment and the activities, I think big cruise ships really do shine, and they probably have a leg up on this one. So oftentimes on those big cruise ships, you're just going to find a variety of attractions on board and things to do that really, if you don't want to ever be bored, a big cruise ship might be for you. Now, while every cruise line is different, you're just going to see a lot of the newest bells and whistles on the cruise line's latest, biggest cruise ships. So whether it's a roller coaster at sea on Carnival, or race cars on Norwegian, or the magic carpet on Celebrity, these are some things that those bigger cruise ships have that some of the smaller or mid-sized cruise ships don't. Now, when it comes to the entertainment on those big cruise ships, there's oftentimes a lot of variety and some really amazing shows. And something that we had noticed when we were on the Oasis of the Seas is there was always really something going on. So there was never a time that we could ever even think of being bored. Now, when it comes to activities and entertainment on board a smaller or a mid-sized cruise ship, in our experience, there really was always something going on and we never were bored. However, there may have been 1 or 2 shows going on at a time rather than several. And due to space and staffing, less activities, less shows can happen all at the same time. Now, when it comes to smaller or mid-sized cruise ships, not having those sort of bells and whistles on a cruise ship isn't really a negative for everybody. So the fact that you don't have a zip line or race cars on your cruise ship may not matter to you, because you do still have pools, you do still have hot tubs. Now, in our experience, we've been on some mid-sized cruise ships where they actually had even a covered pool, which we really liked. And as well, you have, of course, the gym, a small sports court, and you have many other features on the cruise ship that really a lot of people say what they like is those are the amenities that they are likely to use. Now, a criticism that we often hear about those really large cruise ships is that they feel like a mall. And what some people say is that they just don't feel as connected to the sea. It's harder to sort of see the ocean, if you will. And really, instead, people say that there's so much to do on board that they're often distracted by all of that rather than the traditional cruising experience. Now, a pro of that mid-size or smaller cruise ship is the fact that you are going to feel more connected to the sea. Oftentimes, you can sit at the aft of the ship and you can take a look at that wake. You're going to feel a little bit closer to that wake view. Oftentimes, you're also going to find a promenade deck where the promenade actually goes all the way around the cruise ship, and people really do like that. So if you feel like a more traditional cruising experience, or even just feeling a little bit more connected to the sea, a little bit less distractions, you may appreciate that smaller cruise ship. Now, I have 2 more big points to go through, and I think the second one may surprise you a little bit. Now, when it comes to the dining, the big cruise ships, well, maybe they might have a pro that might have those smaller cruise ships beat, and it is the variety of dining. On those larger cruise ships, you just can't deny it. There are so many different places to eat, whether it's the included restaurants, and many cruise ships just have a lot of casual dining that is included, as well as, of course, the main dining room. And you will have several specialty restaurants that do have an additional fee, but that does bring you a lot of variety. Now, on smaller cruise ships, you will have less places to go and eat, although of course you're never going to be starving, and the food can be really good, but there's a little bit less variety. So on smaller cruise ships, you're going to have the main dining room, you're going to have the buffet, you're going to usually have a cafe of some sort, as well as a poolside grill and some pizza. Now, when it comes to specialty dining, and those are restaurants that do have an additional charge, it is common to see 2 restaurants on board rather than more restaurants on board that you would see on those larger cruise ships. Now, I have one more point, and then I'm going to share with you which cruise ship size I actually think is best. Service. Now, when it comes to big cruise ship con, I definitely would add service to this list, and it might be for a reason that is a little bit unexpected. But we've actually spoken with crew over the years, and one of the things that they've told us, even up until recently, is they actually prefer working on some of those smaller cruise ships. They tell us that on bigger cruise ships that they feel more stretched thin. They tell us that they're happier working on smaller cruise ships, that they are moving around less to different departments, and it basically is an easier, less demanding work. They even tell us that they see their friends more, which is something they appreciate. Now, another thing that they've told us and that we notice is that they're able to actually get to know the passengers a little bit more. And what we've noticed is that usually does make the experience a little bit better. That makes the service a little bit better, both in the staterooms, the public area, the entertainment even, and even the main dining room as well. The familiarity that you get with the crew on those smaller or those mid-sized cruise ships is definitely a pro of cruising on a smaller cruise ship. So we've gone over the pros and the cons of smaller ships and bigger cruise ships, but which one do I really think is best? Now, I don't think that cruising is one size fits all, so I actually think that there are going to be different cruise ships that you're going to want to book depending on the type of vacation that you want. So when it comes to a vacation where the destination itself is the cruise ship, I think that a bigger cruise ship makes a lot of sense. And as a matter of fact, we have the Norwegian Joy that is booked coming up in the month of September. I also am looking forward to going on the Celebrity Beyond in the new year. And those are definitely bigger cruise ships where, for me, the cruise ship itself is the attraction. Now, if you're looking for a relaxing, rejuvenating, and even fun vacation, but one where you can move at a bit of a slower pace, not necessarily feel rushed to get from one activity to the other, then I really think that that smaller cruise ship experience is really something that you will enjoy. And I'll add as well that, like, if you're doing an itinerary that's very port focused, that's very port intensive, then a smaller cruise ship I think is really best. As a matter of fact, when we did a Mediterranean cruise a few years ago, we did that on a mid-sized cruise ship, and it was just perfect because the days that we did have at sea, we were a little bit exhausted because we had 8 ports in 12 days, and we were really happy to just be able to lay by the pool, sleep in a little bit, just move at a slower pace and not have to think about getting from one activity to the other, and we could really focus on the travel experience off the cruise ship and just relax when we were on the cruise ship. Now, if you are interested in knowing more about the Celebrity Summit and what it's like to cruise on that smaller cruise ship, I'm going to share a video right after this one if you are interested in checking that out. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What do you prefer? Is it a smaller cruise ship, a bigger cruise ship? What do you like best when you cruise? Please let me know down in the comments below this video. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now, and happy cruising.